The Angel of Death, Yves, Apache, Trudeau, and the Biker. War that forged Canada's worst serial killer, the open road. The roar of a Harley-Davidson, the brotherhood of the patch. For decades, the mythology of the outlaw biker has been woven into the fabric of North American counterculture, a romanticized vision of freedom and rebellion against the mainstream. But in the last quarter of the 20th century, this myth was systematically dismantled on the streets of Quebec, replaced by a far more terrifying reality. Here, the motorcycle club vest was not a symbol of liberty, but a uniform in a bloody, protracted war for control of a multi-million-dollar drug empire. The battles were not fought on open highways, but in urban alleyways, suburban driveways, and crowded public spaces. And in this shadow war, one man emerged as the most potent and feared weapon ever deployed on Canadian soil. A man whose official body count of 43 murders earns him the grim title of Canada's most prolific serial killer. Welcome to elite crime, where power, danger, and deception collide. From the world's most ruthless criminals to the untold stories of the underworld, we uncover the secrets others fear to tell. Before watching the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Let's get started. His name was Yves Apache Trudeau. He was not a lone wolf psychopath operating in the shadows, but a key soldier in the Hells Angels campaign of terror. His story is a chilling descent into the heart of organized criminal darkness, revealing how a sophisticated syndicate can cultivate, empower, and ultimately betray its own angel of death. This is an unsettling account of a brutal killer who wielded the Hells Angels name and symbol as both a shield and a sword, orchestrating a trail of death motivated by wealth, power, and a cold-blooded drive to eliminate all opposition. The reign of Apache Trudeau forced a nation to confront an uncomfortable truth, that a calculated killing machine was operating within its borders, its operatives hidden in plain sight under the guise of a motorcycle brotherhood. The crucible, the social upheaval that forged an underworld. To comprehend the rise of a figure like Trudeau, one must first understand the unique socio-political pressure cooker that was Quebec in the mid-20th century. The period from 1936 to 1960, often referred to as La Grande Noirceur, the Great Darkness, was an era defined by the conservative Catholic traditionalism of the National Union Party. Under the authoritarian leadership of Premier Maurice Duplessis, the province was gripped by a climate of political and religious conformity, with the Catholic Church holding immense influence over education, healthcare, and social norms. When Duplessis died and the Quiet Revolution, Revolution Tranquille, swept through Quebec in the 1960s, the transformation was rapid and profound. The province secularized, liberalized, and modernized at a breathtaking pace. The old structures of authority were dismantled, and a new, assertive Quebecois identity emerged. While this was a period of immense positive change and cultural awakening, it also created a vacuum for a segment of the disaffected youth. The rigid certainties of the old order were gone, replaced by a newfound freedom that, for some, spiraled into rebellion and hedonism. As the script notes, this period saw a significant rise in teenage pregnancy and drug use, indicators of a society grappling with its new identity. It was within this volatile climate that the outlaw motorcycle subculture found fertile ground. Young men, seeking a rigid structure, a sense of belonging, and a powerful way to defy the remnants of the old order and the new, were drawn to the raw, anti-authoritarian appeal of clubs. One of the most notorious was the Popeyes Moto Club in Montreal. Far from being weekend enthusiasts, the Popeyes were a criminal enterprise from their inception, deeply enmeshed in drug trafficking, extortion, and contract killings. They were the street-level shock troops of Quebec's emerging underworld. And it was in this brutal proving ground that a young Yves Trudeau learned his trade. He possessed a natural aptitude for violence and a chilling lack of empathy, traits that, in this environment, were not liabilities, but assets. The war for Quebec, angels versus outlaws. The stakes of Quebec's criminality were raised exponentially with the arrival of American powerhouses. The Hells Angels, the most infamous outlaw motorcycle club in the world, formally established chapters in Canada in the late 1970s. They were not merely another club, they were a franchised global criminal corporation, with a sophisticated command structure and a reputation for ruthless efficiency. Their primary rivals were the Outlaws, another U.S. import with a similarly violent pedigree and a skull and pistons logo that was a direct challenge to the Angel's Wing Death's head. The prize was Quebec's immensely lucrative drug trade, particularly the market for cocaine and synthetic drugs. What began as territorial disputes and minor skirmishes rapidly escalated into a full-scale war. This was not a series of isolated brawls. It was a systematic campaign of assassination and intimidation. Bombings, drive-by shootings, and brutal ambushes became commonplace. The conflict claimed hundreds of lives, with a staggering number of victims being innocent bystanders, patrons of wrong place bars, neighbors of targeted clubhouses, and passers-by caught in the crossfire. The province was transformed into a guerrilla battlefield, and a pervasive sense of fear gripped its urban centers. As the war intensified, the Popeyes became a prospect club for the Hells Angels, a crucial feeder organization. It was at this juncture that Yves Trudeau's particular skill set transitioned from that of a local enforcer to a strategic corporate asset for the Hells Angels empire. His value was about to be realized on an industrial scale. The Apache methodology, a craftsman of death. It was during the height of the biker war that Yves Trudeau earned his infamous moniker, Apache. The name evoked images of savage, merciless, guerrilla-style warfare, a fitting title for a man who waged war without rules or remorse. His reputation was built on an infamous lack of morals and a complete disregard for human life. But what truly set him apart was his versatility and chilling professionalism. Trudeau was a master of multiple murder methods. Firearms, beatings, stabbings, and strangulation were all within his repertoire. However, his signature, the method that truly cemented his legendary status within the underworld and his terror in the public consciousness, was explosives. Trudeau became a virtuoso bomb maker. He could rig cars, doorways, and packages with a cold, calculated precision. This method offered strategic advantages. It allowed him to strike from a distance, often without ever seeing his victim, minimizing his risk of identification or capture. More importantly, it created maximum psychological terror. A car bomb detonating in a public parking lot or on a residential street sent a message far more powerful than a simple shooting. It declared that the war had no boundaries, that the violence was omnipresent, and that association with the enemy, however tangential, was a death sentence. His victims were overwhelmingly members of the rival outlaws, but his definition of a threat was expansively paranoid. Informants, real or suspected, were marked for death. So too was anyone connected to his primary targets, family members, associates, or potential witnesses. This policy of total eradication, of leaving no loose ends, made him the most dangerous and dreaded figure in the Canadian underworld. He wasn't just a hitman, he was a one-man genocide machine aimed at the Hells Angels' enemies. As stated in the script, he was personally responsible for 18 of the 23 outlaws murdered during the peak of the conflict, a staggering statistic that underscores his pivotal role in establishing Hells Angels' dominance. He was, in effect, the club's most effective and feared employee. The betrayal and the deal, the informant's dilemma. The most profound irony of Trudeau's career is that his downfall did not come from a police bullet or a rival's bomb, but from the paranoia of his own brothers. In the treacherous ecosystem of organized crime, loyalty is a currency that is constantly being devalued. As law enforcement pressure mounted following a series of high-profile attacks, and as internal power struggles within the Hells Angels hierarchy simmered, Trudeau, a man who knew too many secrets and had become a significant liability, found himself on the wrong side of the club's internal security. The Hells Angels, the organization he had served with such brutal and unwavering efficiency, turned on him. A contract was placed on his life. The hunter was now the hunted. Facing almost certain death from the very brothers he had killed for, Trudeau made a calculated decision for self-preservation. In 1985, while already in custody on weapons charges, he chose to talk. He turned informant, offering his intimate, first-hand knowledge of the club's inner workings, its key players, and his own horrific crimes as a bargaining chip for his life. The Hells Angels' most feared weapon had become the state's star witness. The deal he struck was as controversial as it was unprecedented. In exchange for a full, detailed, and exhaustive confession, Trudeau pleaded guilty to 43 counts of murder, a number so vast it remains difficult to comprehend, eclipsing the confirmed victim counts of any other Canadian serial killer. He received a life sentence, but, stunningly to the public and the victims' families, with the possibility of parole after 25 years. For those who had lost loved ones to his bombs and bullets, this deal was a bitter and unjust pill. The man responsible for shattering dozens of lives, for creating a legacy of trauma and grief, would have a chance at freedom while their family members were gone forever. It seemed like a perversion of justice. Yet, for law enforcement and prosecutors, Trudeau's cooperation was a watershed moment. His testimony was instrumental in securing dozens of convictions against other high-ranking Hells Angels, effectively decapitating the organization's leadership in Quebec and bringing one of the most violent chapters in Canadian criminal history to a close. It was a grim, pragmatic pact. Absolute justice was traded for systemic dismantlement. A recurring nightmare, the echo of Trudeau in Gerald Gallant. The story of state-sanctioned mass murder within the Hells Angels did not begin and end with Yves Trudeau. His case established a terrifying template, proving that the club could harbor and direct a killer of historic proportions. A decade after Trudeau's deal, another hitman emerged whose crimes echoed this dark pattern, confirming that Trudeau was not an anomaly, but a symptom of the organization's operational ethos. Gerald Gallant, while less known to the public, operated with a similar chilling efficiency. In 2016, Gallant pleaded guilty to a staggering 27 counts of first-degree murder and 12 counts of attempted murder, with his crimes spanning a quarter-century from 1978 to 2003. His spree peaked during the next major biker war, the brutal conflict between the Hells Angels and the Rock Machine that raged from 1994 to 2002. Like Trudeau, Gallant's victims were primarily rival gang members, but his violence also consistently claimed unintended casualties, highlighting the pervasive and indiscriminate collateral damage of these wars. The script poignantly mentions Hélène Brunet, a waitress severely injured in one of his assassination attempts, and Luc Bergeron, a private detective killed while caught in the crossfire. Tragic examples of the innocent lives shattered by a war they were not a part of. In a dramatic courtroom scene, a 58-year-old Gallant expressed remorse and begged forgiveness from the families of his victims. More significantly, mirroring Trudeau's path of self-preservation and pragmatism, he chose to cooperate with authorities. His decision to break the club's sacred code of silence led to the arrest of 10 other individuals connected to multiple biker gang murders. And, in a recurring and deeply contentious feature of Canada's justice system when dealing with high-level informants, his cooperation was rewarded with a life sentence that allowed for the possibility of parole after 25 years, reigniting the same public debate about justice versus pragmatism that had surrounded the Trudeau case. The Monster and the Machine, a legacy of fear and pragmatism. The tales of Yves Apache. Trudeau and Gerald Gallant are not merely isolated sagas of individual psychopathy. They are, rather, the logical and extreme product of a system where sophisticated criminal organizations operate as quasi-military forces, and human life is a cheap, expendable commodity in the relentless pursuit of power and profit. Trudeau was not a lone monster in the classical sense. He was a specialized tool forged in a specific social crucible, wielded by the Hells Angels machine, and ultimately discarded when he became a liability. His monstrous efficiency was enabled and amplified by the club's structure, its resources, and its insatiable appetite for dominance. The legacy of Canada's most violent hitman is a permanent scar on the national conscience. His reign of terror exposed the profound danger posed by transnational organized crime syndicates and demonstrated how the romanticized symbols of rebellion could be perverted into a banner for a campaign of mass murder. The determination of law enforcement, culminating in the morally complex strategy of turning these master killers into informants, stands as a testament to the relentless, if imperfect, pursuit of order. If you liked this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our Elite Crime channel and comment to see more upcoming videos.